myself. My name is Rado Vadovic. I am undergraduate supervisor at our economics department. And I'm joined here today with a few people from our department. First, Professor Karolina Kackiewicz, who is teaching a number of courses in our program, but mainly she's also teaching in our first year sequence. And so if you decide to join us next year, she might be one of your professors. She's very knowledgeable, and I invite all of you to, if you have any questions, please time them in. Carolina will be monitoring, has agreed to monitor the chat, and she'll be happy to answer some of your questions. I'm also joined by our undergraduate administrator, Renee Lorty. She's extremely helpful. She's very knowledgeable about our program. And no, sorry about this. Sorry about this. I'm having, I have to upload the presentation again. All right, I'm back. And so if you have any questions about the structure of the program, some technicalities, registrations, things like that, Renee would be definitely a person to talk to. She knows a lot about that, would be able to help you. I'm also joined by one of our excellent students, James Cabral. He's a fourth-year student about to graduate, and if you have any questions for from students' perspective, James has also kindly agreed to answer some of your questions. So feel free to type in the chat. What we are going to do today, I'm going to do a little presentation for about 30 to 40 minutes or so. We will see how it goes. Hopefully, you will find it interesting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first describe what economics is and what it means to us. And then I will tell you about some of the skills that you will acquire in our program. And I will follow that with highlighting some of the features of our program that we believe are different from perhaps some of the other economics programs out there. And some of them are quite possibly unique to our department. And after that, we will open it up to questions. You are feel free to unmute yourself, ask your questions in voice, or you can just type in. If there are any questions for me as I'm presenting, please. I think the best thing to do is to maybe type them into the chat, and maybe I would ask Renee if she was kind enough to maybe jump in then and alert me to a question. I'm happy to answer on the go, okay, as I'm presenting. Okay, so that's the plan. So let me move towards the first part that I want to talk about, which is what is economics about? And the reason why I would talk about this is because we find, and experience shows, that economics is quite misunderstood as a subject out there, especially by individuals who have not studied enough economics to really get a good understanding and feel for what the subject is about, which would be, I'm very likely, all of you. And so, economics is not one of those subjects that just from the name itself it would be self-explanatory as to what economics is about. Unlike some other disciplines, such as computer science, clearly about computers and programming, right? Political science, politics, governance, psychology, about emotions, heuristics, and so on. Okay, but with economics, it is less clear, okay, what it's about. And so let me explain to you what economics is about from my perspective. And that will take about a few slides, but I'm hoping that by end of it, you will get a good grasp on what the subject is and how we perceive it, okay? So there are two central questions in that economics is interested in. The first questions sorry, I had a message here on the screen. I was trying to figure out if I can close it. So I closed it now. Okay, so the first question is how to get more for less, okay? The picture, I think, illustrates this point. We want to go from a small cookie to a large cookie, which, by the way, it's probably a pie. It's probably not a cookie. But you get the point, okay? We want to go from little to a lot by using as little extra resources as possible, all right? And that can be accomplished in two different ways. The first way would be to think about clever ways of adjusting the recipe. Okay, so I have a recipe how I make cookie. There are steps to it. Okay, I do this thing first, then the next thing, and so on and so forth. Okay. Well, perhaps there is a way of rearranging these steps, reorganizing, introducing some other shortcuts so that we can either increase the size of the cookie or we can we can bake the cookie in a less, in a shorter amount of time. Okay, so it's the recipe, it's the production technology. And this is where cleverness comes into play. This is where economists have to become clever and try to figure out how to best put the pieces of the puzzle together so that they can do it in the shortest amount of time with as little energy as possible and achieve the greatest outcome. Okay, so the recipe is the first way of accomplishing this objective. The other way of doing it is simply to get cheaper ingredients. Okay, so if I get cheaper ingredients, then obviously I didn't have to give up as much of my resources, of my money, in order to bake the cookie of the same size or even possibly a bigger size. But when it comes to prices and the prices of ingredients, then that's not such an easy question, right? Because prices is a recipe is something we have a control over. All it takes is to just go and think and come up with a better, easier way of doing things, such as it is less efficient for me to scratch my head this way, okay, rather than this way. Okay, this is better. I have burned less calories, right? So that's an example of efficiency. That's completely entirely within my control. The prices of ingredients are not. Okay, prices of ingredients would be coming out of markets. Okay, they would be product of markets, and of course markets bring all the other participants, all the other producers of these ingredients together, and eventually they dictate at what is it going to cost me to build a cookie. Which is what brings us to the second question that economics is concerned about, and that is who gets what when no one can get all they want. Okay, so of course I would like to bake the cookie and I would like to get these ingredients for free. Okay, if they're free, if they're just in front of me, that would be the ideal for me. But that just doesn't happen, right? Because there isn't enough many of these ingredients to go around. I'm going to have to compete for these resources with other cooks, other people who want to bake cookies, okay? And so that is exactly why the markets are going to introduce prices, and these prices are going to play an allocative role, deciding who is it in the end that will be able to bake the cookies, who will be able to afford, okay, these ingredients and to go and to do that. And so the second question is mainly preoccupies itself with the functioning of markets and how markets allocate goods, services, things, items to places where they can be most useful and most productive for the society, okay? And that also ties back into the concept of efficiency. It is efficient for the cook, right, to be given the frying pan, right? For the doctor to be given the stethoscope, for the cop to be given the handcuffs, and mechanic to be given the wrench, all right? But it is really up to the markets to decide and to set prices of these items in such a way so that these items actually end up in the hands of the people who can use them the best, okay? All these four guys can use a frying pan, and they definitely have use for frying pan. They want to have, cook eggs for breakfast. But arguably, if there is just one frying pan to go around, we would like markets to work in such a way so that the markets are going to allocate the frying pan to the cook, because in the hands of the cook, the frying pan generates the greatest potential output, right? That can then feed all the others and so on. So these are really the two central questions that economics is preoccupied with. That is how to come up with these clever solutions, clever formulas for getting the most out of less. And then the second question is, can we, once we have this big pie, okay, how do we divide it in such a way so that the hungriest people are going to get the larger pieces and the less hungry people are going to get the smaller pieces, right? That would be the most efficient way of doing this. The ultimate objective, really, the ultimate objective in economics is finding ways to live better, okay? And that's what we think about all day, every day as economists. All right, so we want to live better. So how do we go about it? Well, at the center of any economic decision problem is a cost-benefit analysis, okay? Whenever you make any type of decisions, you are going to first map out in your brain, in your head, what are the benefits of, choosing to go to university? What are the costs of choosing to go to university? You compare the benefits and the cost of getting university education relative to the benefits and the cost of not enrolling in university, and then you make your conscious choice based on the difference between the benefits and the cost, okay? Now, what are the benefits and the costs? Well, the central element in this cost-benefit analysis is incentives. And what are incentives? Well, it is just the carrots and sticks, okay? Now, what are carrots and sticks? I mean, we all know what carrots and sticks are, but what do we mean by that? Well, carrots you can think of as rewards, right? Prizes, bonuses, okay? Those are carrots. Sticks, fines, sanctions, fees, etc. Okay. Now you can think of an employer or a company. A company would have to design a mixture of carrot and sticks in order to entice you and properly motivate you to work for the company and to exert the greatest amount of effort and energy for the goals and for the purposes that they deploy you. Okay, so they're going to have to structure a contract for you that will reward you accordingly in such a way so that they motivate you most to give all that you have, okay, for the benefit of the firm. All right, So people, individuals, they respond to incentives, okay? So they respond to carrot and sticks. Obviously we do. I mean, one example that's quite stark that I can, that you all can relate to is taking breath, okay? So, we all breathe right now, and but why do we do that? Breathing is not fun, is it? It's not particularly fun. It's just we don't think about it, but try to hold your breath. Okay, try to hold your breath. And if you do, as you know, your body is going to, throw a little bit of a stick, and then it's going to increase that stick increasingly so until it will eventually motivate you enough to take another breath. Okay. So incentives are all around us, okay, all around us. Almost any decisions you make, it is going to be a response to some carrot and some sticks that are either psychological or they're materialistic, okay, such as money or fees, functions, and so on. But okay, and so now we have people, and by the way, these don't have to be people. They can be firms, they can be nations too. Okay. So we would normally call them agents, right? In general, so agent can be a person, it could be a firm, it could be a nation. The point is that these agents are subject to the mixture of carrots and sticks, and they respond to them. Now, big chunk of economics is preoccupied with the behavioral responses of people, firms, and nations or governments to incentives, okay? That is the one large area of economics that you will be learning about, how people respond to these, okay? Now, one example I can give you is that, for instance, when you get a job, there are different types of people who are motivated by different types of contracts, okay? Some people are really confident in their abilities, and they are not worried about risks so much, and so they prefer to be motivated by performance-based bonuses. Okay, for instance, salespeople. For salespeople, they would mostly work off of commissions. But of course, if they have a bad month, they're going to earn very little money, right? And then there is other type of individuals or people or workers, okay, who are of the opposite kind. They don't like the risk of their income fluctuating from month to month based on business activity. Okay, they like every month to be guaranteed a certain amount of pay. Okay, and they are willing to forego some amount of money that they could have earned if they were working on commission to have a flat salary given to them every month, and that works for them. That motivates them, okay, to perform to the best of their abilities. Now, obviously, companies don't only offer carrots; they also offer sticks. And the sticks, when it comes to employee-employer relationship, it would most likely be related to promotions, right? So if your performance doesn't meet the expectations, then you are not promoted, or you might even be fired. Okay, so it's always a basket. It's always a mixture of these incentives. Okay, so this is one part of economics that you will be studying quite a lot in our courses. The other part has to do with markets. Okay, now markets are institutions. Okay, they are man-made. We created markets. We design them. We regulate them. But what happens is that markets produce carrots and sticks. Okay, an individual company cannot just set contract in any which way that they want. Suppose that they set the bonuses for high output too high. Well, if they do so, then of course people will be highly motivated. They will give 110%. Okay. But then if the bonuses are too high, that is going to cost the company a lot of money, and it will eventually lose competitive advantage. It will eventually go out of business, okay? So that is how market would discipline the amount of carrots that can be offered. Now, on the other hand, if the market, offers too little of a bonus, well, that works very well for the company, because now they don't actually have to pay very much money, right, to get people to work. But what happens then? Well, nobody's going to be applying for those jobs. Yeah, if you don't pay enough, I'm going to go to your competition that pays more. All right. So yeah, you can set very low carrots, okay, very high stakes, but then you're not going to have anybody interested in. So this is how markets are crucial, okay, in determining what type of incentives will actually exist in a marketplace. Okay, and so there is another large area of economics that deals with markets and market design and institutional design, okay? Now, economics also divides into two other sections, or two other parts, if you will, that you may have learned about in your high school economics courses, and that is a division between micro and macro, okay? So in the context of this diagram, microeconomics would be primarily concerned with individuals and individual firms, okay, and how they respond to incentives, and how they interact with one another in markets. Macroeconomics would be the bird's eye perspective, and would be primarily concerned with these guys being nations, governments, okay, cities, maybe counties, right? Aggregates, they aggregate firms together, aggregate individuals together, lump them into one chunk. But they will be still in the same way interested how these entities now respond to incentives, and how they compete with one another in global marketplaces. Okay? So that is that division. Okay, now this brings us to economic design. So far, it seems like this is kind of a self-propelled, self-regulating kind of mechanism of markets, creating incentives, leading to behavior. But I've already mentioned, if you paid attention, that markets and institutions are man-made, okay? They're mostly designed by us. This is where economic designs come into place, okay? We have power to regulate markets, to change, to impose different trading rules, to impose regulations, to impose price ceilings or price floors on the prices themselves. Okay, we can forbid prices from falling below a certain level, such as minimum wages, for instance. Okay, in Ontario and many different countries, Canada and US and so on, in Europe, there are minimum wage laws, right? These are price ceilings that do not allow wages to fall below a certain level. So there is a lot of power that we have as economists to regulate the markets and to intervene. And once we intervene, okay, we affect what type of incentives are going to be observed, are going to be sustained in a marketplace, and that will influence the behavior. The behavior will generate economic outcomes, okay? I don't have it in a picture here, but there will be economic outcomes. How do we measure economic outcomes? Well, let me say, we measure them in smiles and cries, okay? The more smiles we see, the happier we are. The less cries we see, the happier we are, okay? So if we look at the ratio of smiles to cries, okay? And if we don't like that ratio, then we go right here back to the drawing desk, and we try to figure out how to do things better. Okay, and so the outcome of this process is going to be clever solutions, okay? Clever market solutions. And this is one clever market solution, or a clever economic solution, where it is notoriously hard to incentivize donkeys, at least according to hearsay evidence, to move sometimes. And here's an attempt to convince the donkey to actually take a step. I'm not sure if this really works. I'm still waiting for anyone to tell me if they had any experience with this, whether this works or not. But I think it illustrates the point. Okay. Now, on a more serious note, clever economic design solutions have been applied across the spectrum of different areas in economics, such as taxation. Okay, so let me just pick a few of these just to illustrate a few aspects where economic design has been used to improve economic outcomes. So with taxation, for instance, taxing cigarettes or alcohol, right? Taxation has dual purpose. One purpose of taxation is, of course, increase the revenue for the government, so we can build roads and have good education, healthcare, defense, and so on. The other objective is to encourage or discourage behavior. Okay, and so taxation on items such as cigarettes or alcohol has been also used to discourage people from buying and using those products. Social subsidies and transfers. One interesting application there is unemployment insurance. Okay, unemployment insurance are payments that we pay to people who are unemployed so that they can go out and search for jobs. Okay, you can only go out and search and apply for jobs if you have time to do this. If you don't have any income, you can't afford to go around interviews, right? You have to go and actually work so that you can earn some money to feed your family and so on. So we have unemployment insurance payments. But imagine that we set them too high. If we set them too high, then that can have actually the opposite effect of people quitting their jobs so that they can take advantage of these payments. If you set them too low, okay, then they are not very effective. The people are still going to have to get additional jobs to meet their income needs, and they won't be able to effectively search for jobs. So you see, this is a dilemma. This is a complicated problem that economists are very much involved in fine-tuning the parameters of this. Regulation, here one thing I would like to point out is licensing and patents. Okay, patents are extremely important for us. Why? Because, for instance, without patents and patent protection, we wouldn't have vaccines, okay, for COVID, for instance, or vaccines for anything else. Why? Because, I would like to see the company that would be willing to invest millions of dollars into research and development, okay, without having some guarantees that after they have the product, they would be able to recoup, okay, the expenditures, all the things that all the money that it cost them to develop these types of drugs and medications. Okay. Otherwise, without license protection, any other company could just look at the vaccine, get their hands on it, and do copy and paste. Okay, and without spending a single dollar in development. Contracts, agreements, I've already talked about, the labor contracts. Pricing. In pricing, obviously, there are strategies that companies have to come up with. They have to think of other competing companies and their pricing strategies, in order to get competitive advantage and so on. And economists are very much involved in advising, especially large corporation, on how to price in different markets. Marketing, the same thing. Okay. This is maybe a point where I would like to invite Carolina, if she has a few more interesting examples from her experience and her teaching.
Yeah, I think I just maybe want to say one or two cases in which all of this, carrot and stick model that we would use to design regulations can also maybe backfire, right? So like in the example of the unemployment insurance, that rather you were saying that we have to be careful about how high that unemployment payment would be so that you don't provide the wrong incentives to people. The same thing can happen in many other settings. So for example, in the case of regulations that aim to help the environment, there have certainly been several cases that have proven to have backfired. So I will give you an example of a carrot regulation and a stick regulation, both of which actually had problems. Okay, so for example, in the case of biofuels. Okay, so when biofuels were first developed, everybody thought this is a great idea. We should definitely provide incentives so that people would use more biofuels. So what is the best way to provide an incentive for people to use more of something? Make it cheap, right? But these were new products, so they were not that cheap. So the government decided to provide subsidies, okay, to incentivize companies to produce more biofuels. So this all sounds like a good idea. Biofuels, the use of biofuels increased significantly, but it turns out that nobody was really thinking what is going to happen with markets that are related to biofuels, such as, for example, the inputs that are used to produce biofuels, right? So corn, for example. So the most common biofuel is ethanol, which is produced making corn. And what happened when the government provided all of these subsidies for ethanol was that there was a higher demand for corn in order to use it to produce more ethanol. And that, of course, increased the price of corn. And when the price of corn went up, that also changed the incentives for farmers. Right now, farmers wanted to grow more corn. And there were only two ways in which you could grow more corn. Either you stop growing something else in order to grow more corn, or you look for more land in order to grow corn, right? And this way, it was that many places where there were rainforests, this subsidy provided more incentives for the rainforests to be destroyed in order to have more farmland to produce corn. Okay, so you see how here we wanted to give a carrot for more companies to produce and companies to use biofuels, but it turned out that it actually hurt the environment as well by destroying more rainforests, and also issues with the use of fresh water, pollution of fresh water, and also by increasing the price of corn, increasing the cost of food. Okay, so there's a lot of ramifications that can happen when a new regulation is imposed and that you need to think of before you actually impose it. Okay, so this is the example of a carrot regulation. Let me give you another example of a stick regulation. Okay, so everybody's worried about plastic bags, right? We all know plastic bags pollute the environment, are very harmful in many different ways. So the very first thing that some people thought of doing is, well, that's it, let's ban plastic bags, right? And of course, the plastic bag, the single plastic bag that is the most, I guess, pervasive everywhere is the single-use supermarket plastic bag, or like delivery food type plastic bag, right? So let's ban those. And the problem was that this sort of backfired because people find a way around things, right? The plastic bag actually had a purpose, right? To carry things around. So, for example, in many supermarkets, in some locations where the bans were implemented in a very rushed way, they found that thicker, better built plastic bags actually did not fall into this regulation, right? So that supermarkets started offering these plastic bags for a price, with some of them saying that they were reusable plastic bags, right? But it turns out that people are not really that used to doing this, and people were buying a lot of these plastic bags, which actually use a lot more plastic to make them than the other bags, right? And take a lot longer to be disintegrated in the environment. So they are actually also harmful to the environment. In other places, they actually found that if you introduced a tax on the plastic bag instead of a ban on the plastic bag, the reduction in the use of plastic bags was much larger, or the reduction in the use of plastic overall, right? Counting all of the types of plastic bags was much larger. So you see, sometimes it's not very straightforward which type of regulation works best, right? So the outright ban turned out to be worse than a more, let's say, a smaller restriction or a smaller stick, which was the tax on the plastic bag. Okay, so with all of these regulations, like Rada was saying, we're trying to design incentives for agents in the economy, firms, individuals, institutions, to react in a particular way to get to a particular outcome. But because economies are so complex systems, it is not always straightforward to imagine what could be the results, the outcomes of certain regulations. Some of these outcomes can be, predicted, but some of them really cannot until you see the regulation put in place. Okay? So not easy questions to resolve, even if they look simple at the beginning.
Oh, that's excellent. I think we should do a whole course on the incentives misfiring, right, or backfiring.
I agree.
This is very interesting. Okay, so let me now tell you a little bit about the skills, and I will maybe speed up a little bit because we are at about 40-minute mark or so. So these are, I think, the most important skills, or the main skills, okay, that you would require in an economics program. First, abstract thinking. Now, abstract thinking doesn't seem like much, but employers actually cite this as one of the main advantages of graduates with economics degree. Now, what do we mean by abstract thinking? What we mean is modeling complex phenomena, boiling them down into simple models that then reveal powerful intuitions, okay, about how to solve individual problems. I will give you an example of this just in a minute. The second skill, data management, causal analysis, and computer programming. Now, economists are usually very well equipped to analyze data sets and to provide informed, educated answers to whatever questions are presented to them. Right? We immediately go into data. Right? Data is something that where the truth is hidden. Okay, but one needs to know what to do with data, and that is, we have series of courses in our program designed precisely to bring you up to speed so that you can proficiently handle these questions and support your conjectures, conclusions with evidence. And the third skill that you will develop in our program is effective communication skills. The only thing I can say that you can be the cleverest person on the planet. If you cannot communicate your ideas effectively, it is as good as if you knew nothing at all. Okay, and so we're very conscious of that, and there are, again, courses in our program designed to give you the necessary tools and practice so you will be successful communicators. Now, let me return to the abstract thinking, just to give you an example. This is a map of Toronto, and suppose that you wanted to go from A to B, okay? Now, what is the best way to get from A to B? Well, it's a mess. I mean, I don't know. You could probably stare at it and figure it out. And of course, if you are Toronto local, then you would know. But suppose you aren't, okay? There's lots of streets and here and there crossing each other and so on and so forth. All right, in other words, this represents a complex problem. And when confronted with complex problems, people usually either give up or they just make some naive guesses, okay? There is really only two alternatives. Now, what we train you to do, and this is a theme that runs through all of our courses, is that we work with models, okay? This is what an economic model would look like, or a representation of an economic model, is that we simply just fade away a lot of the complexity that we feel arguably doesn't quite matter, and we focus on the important stuff, okay? So I've just highlighted here by pen, I just highlighted the freeways. Now, if you look at this picture, it is very clear how to get from A to B, right? I just get on the freeway here and I get to B. All right, there might be a better way. I mean, I might be able to take some shortcuts, okay? But for all effective purposes, if I just follow this freeway, I'm gonna get there in a very short time. It's not gonna be the first best, it's going to be the second best. The ability to take complex problems in any of the organizations you will be working for, okay? Being able to convert them, boil them down to useful models. This is a useful model. It eliminates a lot of the richness and a lot of what's real. A lot of these treats are filtered out, okay? But it preserves the main backbone that matters the most, okay? And it's a skill. It's a skill that you have to practice, that you have to develop over time, encountering different situations. And this is where economic models and economic modeling comes into place. You will develop the instinct to be able to do this, okay? So abstract thinking. Now, data management, causal analysis. This is a word cloud that was taken from titles of academic journals of the top 5 journals in economics over the past 3 years. It is about 1,000 articles. They took all the words in the titles, okay, and the size of the individual words represent the frequency with which that word appears in the titles of these articles. As you can see, evidence, okay? So we are in an age where evidence is at the centerpiece of economics. The reason why that is the case is we are now living in a digital age. There is a lot of data around us. If you go grocery shopping, you will swipe your card, and that card will record automatically all the stuff that you have bought, and will create probably your profile somewhere in the database. All right, and there is, we leave digital footprints almost anything that we do now these days, and it creates millions, perhaps billions of data points, okay, at various databases. And there is a lot that we can learn about our behavior from that data, which obviously brings up the need for people who are qualified and proficient in able to take these databases, ask the right questions, process the data in the right way, and tease out the answers that are relevant to us. All right. Now, one key to data analysis that you will particularly learn in an economics program as something that most people do not naturally think about, but it will become a second nature to you if you get an economics degree, is causal analysis. Okay, you will be immediately thinking, when you think data, you will be thinking about causal questions. Okay, what causes what? Here's a simple example that it's a caricature, obviously, but it illustrates the point very clearly. You have a person on the train, they're both moving. Obviously, they're both moving because the person is sitting on a train. If you just recorded the GPS coordinate of this person here and the train, they would be moving together, okay? But now if you are a policy analyst and you wanted to figure out how to alter the trajectory of the train and the person moving, or how to stop the train or what have you, you would necessarily have to answer a question: which entity is actually causing the movement? Is it the person moving the train, or is it the train moving the person? Now, in this caricature, it is obviously that it's a train moving the person, right? But that is something that has to be discovered, and there are powerful statistical techniques that we will teach you in our courses to be able to tease out the causality relationships, right? And here are a few items where few causal questions that have been studied by economists that are quite important, such as, does university education cause higher post-graduation wages? Something that I'm sure you all are interested in, and the answer is qualified yes. Okay. Do the unemployment benefits cause more people seeking jobs? Well, that's more complicated question that I already talked about. Do higher interest rates slow inflation? Okay, the answer is also a qualified yes. But there are many other causal questions. Okay, which brings me to our program. Now, because you have all applied already to our program, you are familiar with our program, I'm assuming. Okay, so let me just highlight a few things that I believe make us different and sometimes unique or different from other programs. And here I would like to highlight our economic data science concentration, right? Our pathway in economic data science, and the financial economics. Now we have other very interesting concentrations, but the economic data science, I believe that's where the future is. That's a, I think, very marketable concentration and very interesting one. Let me make a point about that. All right. Now, what is data science in general? Well, data science is kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack. Haystack represents a lot of data, millions, billions of observations, okay? And you are looking in that data to find some regularities, to find some patterns, to tease out some truths, some relationships between variables, all right? In other words, you are looking for the needle, okay? And there are powerful methods, powerful statistical methods that can eventually tease out those relationships out of the haystack. But it may take a long time, okay? Because there is so much data out there. Now, if you combine data science and economics, okay, that will give you a tremendous advantage. How? Why? Because economics will provide you with a set of insights and theories about how human behavior operates and how markets work, okay? Those insights will be able to assign probabilities, likelihoods, where in that haystack the needle is more likely to be found. So imagine if you are able to conclude that the needle is on the left side, left half of the haystack, then all you need to do is just go and look in the left half of the haystack. You have just reduced your problem in terms of complexity by half. Okay, so that is where economics and data science complement each other. And we believe, I think this is still a unique program in Canada that combines economics and data science. Now, financial economics concentration, that's our most popular concentrations. And here I just like to highlight the fact that there are two streams. There is an economic stream and a business stream. So if by any chance you are interested in taking some business courses, or if you have taken a business course and you enjoyed it, you can very well do that from within our program as well. Okay, we have a business stream here where you would take, of course, economics courses, but also those will be complemented by some business courses. So you have a lot of flexibility there. I would like to still make one remark about number 6, natural resources, environment, economy. I believe that's where the future lies. Okay, that's a concentration that will become more and more prominent. Energy and climate and environment is going to be more and more of a topic of the day, and experts are going to be more and more in demand. That is my personal opinion, and we have a very good program structured around that topic. And also I would like to highlight number 7, which is the mathematics and quantitative economics, which is a program that is designed for people who are already thinking of going into some of the top PhD programs in economics. So if you are someone who is already on the track, on the path, you want to go and get a PhD in economics, you should get on this concentration right away in the first year and start taking the more advanced math courses. And by the end of it, you will be very, very well prepared for that. Now, another advantage that separates us from other programs is that we are simply in Ottawa. Okay, so Ottawa advantage, we are surrounded by various branches of the government with hundreds of departments, thousands of people. Many of those people are graduates of our program, hold Carleton degrees. So there is a large network of alumni. There are lots of opportunities to do internships, co-ops, etc., etc. Not to mention the growing IT sector in Ottawa, especially in Canada, with companies such as Shopify, Python, and so on, that are actively hiring, especially in economic data analytics. Now, I would like to also say a few words about the co-op opportunities, because this is a great program that we have, where you would be taking 3 semesters and getting an on-the-job experience with one of the employers where you would apply to, and that way, once you graduate from Carleton, you would already have a work experience. You would have a wealth of contacts. Okay, it will be so much easier for you to get a position and continue on that path. Or you can, of course, always choose to go to graduate school and get higher training. But those contacts and relationships will remain. I have just created a table of very few of our recent placements. As you can see, the ones in beige color, they are all government branches. Okay, so most students are placed in various branches of governments. You have Payments Canada, CRA, the Revenue Agency, Health Canada, Statistics Canada, and so on and so on and so on. There are also two non-government organizations, such as the RBC Bank or Hydro Canada. So it is not always the case that you have to go into a government, but most students choose to apply and are accepted by one of these organizations. If you are wondering what students are doing at their co-ops, I read the reports that they write, and they're quite interesting. I have just picked a few here. So this particular student has worked at the Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada as policy analyst and was reviewing updates and new stats of trade, stats regarding the trade relationship between the Canada and the US. Another student worked at Statistics Canada as a junior analyst and was charged with providing or tasks with providing statistical analysis using variety of databases, especially in this particular case of financial statements. He was saying that it was very rewarding to learn about all these financial statements of companies, and also he was able to use a lot of the statistical tools that he has learned in our courses. Another student worked at the Defense Research Development Canada as junior analyst, and she was in charge here of analyzing some of the evaluating some of the statistical models that were predicting the incidence of COVID cases at a variety of places in Canada, which I thought was also very, very interesting. But there are so many other examples that I just don't have enough space to list here. But that's just to give you a little bit of an idea of what people do. All right. Now, communication, effective communication skills. Let me return to that. We have several courses in our program, and that is also, I think, there are not too many economics programs that do that for students. We have a professional practice course that is required, where we teach you how to effectively present your ideas to the management, to the superiors, how to write professional memos, how to interact with people via emails, how to analyze and condense reports and summarize your research, etc., to present it in a very short time, very effectively. We have then two other courses where you develop research skills. Okay, one is actually Funnycon 3900, where is the first time you actually select a topic and write the research papers. And then at the very end of the program, there's a thesis option that you can do, or you can take a capstone seminar in which you again work on a research project under supervision of one of our professors. So by the time you graduate, your research skills should be quite well refined. Some other opportunities that are perhaps less traditional is that we offer some of the non-traditional courses that perhaps you wouldn't find at some other departments. In particular, economics of pandemics was taught by our chair, Hashmat Khan, for 2 semesters now in a row. It was a very popular course. We have 2 faculty members in our department that have expertise on COVID and do quite a bit of research on that topic. We also have an economics laboratory. I'm directing that. That's where we play computer games with students, and depending on their choices, I then pay them money in cash. Okay, and of course the idea is that I observe the behavior and then confront some of the economic theories with the data that I collect. Now, there is also the Bank of Canada Governors Challenge competition. This is a nationwide competition by Bank of Canada where students or teams from individual universities are tasked with making a proposal, proposals to the board, to the bank's board of how to run monetary policy. And by the way, James Cabral, who is here with us, has been part of a successful team that has made it to the finals among all the teams in Canada. So we are very proud of our students for this incredible success. And let me just comment on the last dash there, James, and then I would invite you to say a little bit about that. The last point is Undergraduate Economic Society. So this is a society run by our students, and they organize a variety of events throughout the semester. They organize lectures, they organize get-togethers. They have a hierarchical structure, so they have presidents, they have co-president or single president. There are opportunities to be involved in leadership roles, which is something that always is good experience to have, as well as to put on your CV. Okay. So James, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about this, about your path and culminating in your great success there in the Governor's Challenge.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I definitely kind of remember being in your shoes and kind of trying to choose where I wanted to go to school. And for me, I was really looking for a program that kind of combines kind of analysis of numbers. You know, I'm a numbers guy, but I also wanted a program that kind of allowed me to think critically. And I was drawn to economics because you get to kind of tackle these big picture issues while kind of using the numbers really. As we've been saying the whole time, kind of boiling down the problem. Analyzing it with statistics and math. And so I really found that attractive about economics. And I actually started out in a different degree. And, I as soon as I walked into kind of my first year economics course, I thought, this is a great fit for me, kind of for those reasons. And kind of since then, my degrees allowed me to kind of develop all these technical skills. So, as we've been saying, math, statistics, a bit of programming as well. Something else I really liked about the program is that, there's such a wide kind of variety of issues that we look at in economics. And so, I thought it was really interesting. You'd meet some people who were kind of more like me, who wanted to do the technical stuff, who wanted to learn math and programming. But there's also people who want to really look at policy, who want to look at global development. And then you'll find people who love kind of the financial side of it, and they want to talk about stocks and cryptocurrencies. So I really love kind of the wide variety of things that we talk about in economics. And so I guess, I can kind of get into a few of the highlights of my time in the program. So one of them was definitely the experiential component. So being able, especially in fourth year, to write kind of the honors thesis. I was also part of the data science program, and in your fourth year of that program, you get to sort of learn about you get to sort of learn these machine learning techniques, and then you actually get to write a paper where you use machine learning to analyze an economic issue. So I thought those are great opportunities to kind of sum up everything you've learned throughout your degree. You're taking kind of the technical aspects of what you learned, as well as the real critical thinking aspects of what you learned, and you kind of get to put those all together. So I think that's a really great aspect of the program. I was also in the co-op program, and honestly, yeah, I couldn't recommend that enough. It's I did my first co-op at Global Affairs Canada, and I kind of I got the chance to sort of see what does an economist really do, and that really confirmed for me that like this is really the path I want to take. I want to be an economist. And you also obviously you get some experience on your resume. Um, so I think in the when you do sign up for the co-op program, you get help building your resume. You get help. I actually, before I interviewed for Global Affairs, the co-op office actually offered to do like a custom interview. So they'll read the job description, and then they'll actually bring you in for an interview, and they'll kind of pretend that they're your potential employer interviewing you. So yeah, a lot of super helpful sort of facets of the co-op program. Yeah, and then lastly, the Bank of Canada Governors Challenge. So it's something that you'll do. I think it's mostly fourth year students, but some third year students as well. And yeah, you kind of the Carleton will sort of send a group of several students to the Bank of Canada to sort of play the role of policy advisor to the Bank of Canada. And once again, there's a technical component to doing that. You'll have to use all the statistics you've learned throughout your degree to sort of try to best predict where the economy is going to go, what's inflation going to be, what's gross domestic product going to be. And you also have to really think critically about what are the key issues affecting the Canadian economy and the world economy, and that ultimately informs your policy recommendation. And we got the chance to present in the final round, where we actually got to present for some of the people at the top of the Bank of Canada who actually do make these kinds of decisions. And so yeah, so I ended up finishing the program actually last Thursday, so very recently, and kind of as a result of the Governor's Challenge and some of my co-op opportunities, I'm now working as a research assistant at the Bank of Canada. So yeah, that's kind of all I had to say. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, and again, congratulations on your new job.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Let me ask Spencer. Do we are at the 7:30 mark, but do we still have some time for some question? I'm happy to stay personally.
Yeah, great question. So for folks who are on the presentation, if you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to stick around. I think there's some amazing staff members here who will be able to answer. And we also have James, so you get a bit of that student perspective as well. But we also recognize that it is about 7:30 now. So if you don't have any questions, you are more than welcome to head out. We really appreciate you folks tuning in today.
Yeah, and let me say, please, if you have to go and you still have any questions after that, please email me. I mean, you can find me on our website. You can find my email is available. By the way, I can just put it here, okay? Or you can email Renee. I'm sure she will be very happy to either answer or forward the email to me. But again, I'm happy to stay as long as there are people and as long as there are any questions. Otherwise, thank you for your attention.
I think we have one question in the chat for you there already, Rado.
Yeah. No, I opened the chat window. Actually, I didn't have it open. Okay, so for the data science specializations, are many of the courses computer science based? The type of programming that is involved in a data science concentration is primarily geared towards statistical programming of the statistical procedures. Okay, so data management and programming of the statistical procedures. In our program, we primarily use Stata, but in the upper level courses, the instructors might also introduce you to some of the other programming languages, such as R or perhaps even MATLAB. But it is not as extensive as if you were studying a computer science degree. Okay, for sure not. This is primarily to give you the skills to be able to take the data set, load it into your statistical package, process the variables, clean up the variables, reorganize the data set in such a way so you can run your statistical procedures, and then run your statistical procedures that are either packaged inside of that software, or you would program those statistical procedures yourselves, okay, using using some programming. Yeah. So but that is the extent. However, let me say that throughout the whole process, okay, you are not thrown into deep water. In none of our courses, we will just throw you into the deep water and watch you see if you can swim or not. Okay, we'll take you by the hand, we'll take you into the shallow, okay, and then slowly introduce you into deeper as you develop the skills to handle it. So
if I may.
Oh yes, please, Carolina. Yes.
Yeah. So for the data science specialization, you only need to take one computer science course so that you have some basic knowledge of programming, and that's really all that you need. After that, like Rado said, you would use either Stata or R for the machine learning courses, but anything that you need to use during those courses, you will be taught throughout.
Great. So when would you need to decide which concentration you want to do? Okay. If you are thinking, if you have the ambition of going to one of the top PhD programs, top most prestigious PhD programs worldwide, then you absolutely should do the mathematics and quantitative econ concentration, and that decision you have to make in year one. Why? Because you have to take the more advanced math courses. Okay, if you don't take the more advanced math courses, then you wouldn't be able to take the intermediate math courses, which you need to take to complete the concentration. Okay, so that is really the only concentration where you have to think about is really almost from the day one. All right, other concentrations you will have to make the decision either in year 2 or 3. Okay, so you would still have the first year to think about what type of topics you are interested in. Do you need a master's to be successful as an economist? In general, I would highly advise students to get a master's degree. I would, the way you phrase the question, there are, some of the most successful people in business are university dropouts, right? Such as Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs and so on, right? Are some of the two examples. So it is not. When it comes to success, I think success depends mainly on your passion and work ethic. But if you want to do economics at a very highly rewarding level, it is highly desirable that you acquire that additional training at the master's level. Yes, and that of course also opens up possibilities for you for career advancement. Your career advancement would progress much faster in that case. But if you decide to just go and get a job right out of Carleton with your bachelor's degree, Okay, that's perfectly fine. And if you are, if you work hard, you are smart, you will learn a lot, you will develop contacts, and you can always go and get your master's degree a few years down the road after that. There is no harm, no foul, I think, in doing that.
Yeah, if I may just my 2 cents, it really depends what career path you choose. Okay, so with an economics degree, you can do many different things. You can go into business consulting, economic consulting. You can work in international organizations. You can go to academia. There's tons of different things that you can do. And for some of those career paths, masters, PhDs, are sort of a requirement to get far enough, right? So if you maybe work in the Bank of Canada, you want to get far enough, you need a PhD. If you want to go into academia, you need a PhD. But in many jobs, experience on the job is more important than additional academic training. So, there's no blanket answer to that question, really, unless you know what your career path will be.
Yeah, I agree. Good question. Thank you for coming. How complex are the math courses? Okay, very good. Next year, so I have to say that we have been deeply involved in trying to redesign our introductory math courses over the course of this year in such a way so that we give students the absolute best chance in succeeding, and as well as learning and mastering the tools that they will then use in their intermediate, that they will then use to study the economics, right? We want you to learn and study economics. Economics is what we all find interesting, but math is necessary because it is the best way to talk about economics. Okay, it's a language that is absolutely, it's the most precise language that we know as humankind. Okay, and it allows us to talk about economics in a precise way. But we are absolutely committed to take you by the hand and bring you to the level where you will be confident and comfortable in using the math tools that are necessary in your further theory courses. Okay, and that is starting in the fall of this year.
And also complexity really is relative, right? It all depends on also what your skills are, what your background is. So it's a bit of a subjective question to answer. But yeah, definitely you will have the support that you need to get the tools, the math tools that you need for the program.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to say, up until this year, the introductory math courses were taught by math department and math professors. Starting in the fall, but this is the semester you would begin. These math courses will be taught by us. It will be taught by economics professors. Okay, so we will do our best effort to to really just bring the math down to very nice and hopefully interesting economic examples that will illustrate this concept clearly. Carolina, I think this is yes, right? We will be back in person.
I think that's everybody's hope, but I don't think there's a definitive answer yet.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Things have been changing.
Right. Yeah. Nobody. Yeah, we can really promise.
You cannot promise it.
Yeah, but that's the plan. Yeah. Isn't it math intensive? Yes. Yeah, we do. We do. But let me say, I understand your your question, but let me say that I would encourage you to not be worried about math. we are really making an effort, because this is very much on our radar. I have seen this question before. You are certainly not the first one to ask this question. And so it is on our radar, and we are making adjustments and efforts to make sure that all of our students are comfortable in pursuing concentrations, or most of our concentrations, perhaps with the exception of the math and quantitative econ. But that being said, of course, yes, we have, do I still have my presentation here? Let me see, let me go back to concentrations. Well, any of the concentrations 4, 5, and 6 would be geared towards topics. Okay, so economic topics. There will be also some courses from other departments that you will take, for instance, from political science or from geography, etc. And then, of course, we also have the Begins program, the School of Global Affairs, where in those programs, they're not listed on this slide, but you can find them on our website. And those pathways are, I think I could say, minimal in terms of math content. Ooh, are there any scholarships for economics program? That, I have to say that I don't know. Renee, would you know anything about this?
I'm happy to kick this question off on more of a general note. So
Okay.
if you are applying directly from a high school, whether it's in Canada, in Ontario, internationally, you're going to be automatically considered for an entrance scholarship. Carleton's entrance scholarships range anywhere from $1,000 a year for 4 years, all the way up to $4,000 a year for 4 years. So that's $16,000 total. And those are automatically assessed. So as long as you apply, submit all your documents, you'll be considered for those. We also have something called prestige scholarships. Now I should mention that the deadline for these have already passed. So they were due on March 1st. But if you are applying for perhaps next year or the year after, that's definitely a good one to keep your eye on, because they are 23 different scholarships with one single application. And some of those scholarships go all the way up to free tuition for 4 years. And we do have a really amazing awards and financial aid page. And so if you check out the Carleton Awards website, you can see all of the scholarships that are available. Some of them are program specific, but some of them are open to folks in any programs.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Hi, sorry, I'll also add that we have departmental awards that are usually awarded, oh, sorry, that's my dog, awarded from students progressing from 3rd to 4th year. And so there's about 6 or 7 of those as well. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Thank you for all the great questions from the group.
Yes.
I think those really covered a bunch of really helpful topics, and it's going to be really great for your, future classmates as well who might have joined the meeting too. Just as we're wrapping things up here, does anyone have any last minute questions that they want to ask? Fantastic. I don't see any typing in the chat right now. So thank you folks so much for coming out today and for staying a little bit later so you could get all of your questions in. Rado's put all of the contact information for both him and Renee on the screen, so feel free to take a picture so that you have it. And if you do have any questions as you go through, the next couple of weeks, if you're accepting an offer for this year or if you're preparing for the future, please reach out to us. We're here to help, as you can tell by this presentation where there's 6 of us ready to answer questions. We really do have a great support network here. So we would really look forward to hearing from you folks. Have a great rest of your night.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully see you in the fall.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Okay. Thanks, James. That was excellent. Thanks.